there. He's still cool, though, swatting that fly with a single blow. But then again, it's so good every time. But then maybe, and I do wonder this, maybe he's seen as lacking slightly in gravitas. I mean, he famously called a radio phone-in show to wind up a political power. And maybe he's a bit like his wife, Michelle, who told The Telegraph, she's like a swan, seemingly calm on top while paddling furiously underneath, as indeed I am now. Gail, what do you think? What's he achieved in a year?
Well, I think, you know, a year as a president is not a long time.
Feels like a long time when Gordon Brown's your Prime Minister.
Well, yeah, that's right. But, you know, he's got a huge, huge job. There's a huge amount of mess left behind. And I think to give someone a year and go, you know, it's not like you've got a job for a week and you think, oh, you know, I'll get a hang of it after a week. He's got a lot to do, and it's nice to actually see someone with a human spirit and who comes across as, you know...
So why do they hate him so much back at home?
Back at home, as
in the States?
In Texas or just generally?
In the States generally.
I don't think they do.
His approval rating has gone from 68% when he was elected to below 50% now.
Well, because people want instant...
He's lost Ted Kennedy's seat.
Dog. Oh, seat.
Yeah.
Not the dog.
Not the dog.
But, well, you know... I'm just going to go and get a bar of chocolate and I'm going to go and look at naked men. No, but I think people want instant... You know, everything has to happen instantly, and he can't possibly do that. He has got...
So do you... When you've got a depressed economy, do you really want to introduce healthcare reforms that most Americans see as a huge financial burden that's being imposed on them?
But it's a huge... The healthcare system in America is in an absolute state, and I mean...
Well, can I just tell you that what the opponents, their number one piece of evidence used to oppose his plans for healthcare reforms is, have you seen what the NHS has done
to Britain? Well, that doesn't surprise me, but
Go on, have a chocolate.
But what the NHS has done for Britain is make us a healthier society and given poor people a better chance at getting better when they're ill, actually, is what it's done. And there's lots of... the propaganda...
But don't forget, though, that within the health service, you know, nearly £100 billion a year budget, they are now looking at ways of saving money, which could mean the end of complete free treatment to everybody. Ultimately, I think...
No, but if you look at the propaganda that was put out in America, that basically sort of implied that we, the British people, hated the NHS and we didn't want it, which I don't think is true. And my only experience of ever having, when I've got to go to the hospital or whatever, has always been fantastic. And I think it's a wonderful, incredible result.
The opponents see it as a huge financial burden on the country.
Yeah, but I think in 1948, I think it is one of the most amazing examples of social change through politics, proper politics in action. 1948, and we're still living with legacy of it now.
Well, if he doesn't get it through, though, if he doesn't get it through,
he wants to get it through,
wasted.
Which is the right thing to do. There is a huge resistance to it because they see public healthcare as a form of communism at some point.
That's very true.
In a really far-fetched way. But actually, it might be a financial burden, but not as big a financial burden as if you get ill under the current system.
Yeah.
Which is what's happening. There are lots of people who cannot afford to have private health insurance in America, and if they get ill, they're in trouble.
What about overall, within the year? I mean, did you find any irony at all in the fact he gets a Nobel Peace Prize after increasing the troop presence in Afghanistan by 30%?
Utterly ridiculous, but it's kind of not his fault that they give him the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, ridiculous.
Guantanamo Bay not closed yet. I mean, it still may happen, but...
No, certainly I think it will happen, won't it? Basically, I think what he's found is, it's like... he's made all these promises, and it's a really intransigent system. The American political system is like trying to turn a battleship, a big steamer. It's just slowly going that way. I still quite like him. I think, you know, he's sort of like... You feel like he's about to unbutton his shirt and he'll be Superman underneath. And I kind of buy that a little bit. I
used to think that, and now I'm slightly less so. And I was one of the people right at the beginning that was saying, you know, he ain't going to achieve anything in a year. It's going to take more time.
That's the thing. I think everybody really expected a lot because he was the first black president. He was this, is that. I think everyone expected quite a lot. But it's like a business, isn't it? Being president, it's like a business. You can't expect profit in your first year.
No.
So
especially when times are hard, Is it
long enough? I imagine if you looked at over history, you would find 12 months in, most presidents had a lower approval rating than they did when they were elected, and that's kind of standard and par for the course.
I mean, his is historically low, although I guess the approval rating was probably historically high to start off with.
One thing he has been brilliant at, and you can't knock him for this, is he has not been George Bush.
That is true. Lisa, I mean, you mentioned America's first black president. It's quite interesting. The Independent today has run a big feature about the fact that far from dispelling colour as an issue, it's actually made colour more of an issue in the United States.
It really has, really, isn't it? Because everyone's saying, oh, well, he's not actually black, he's mixed race. Or, you know, it's not actually this, it's that. So it's really... I think it's applied more pressure when there's enough pressure being president in the first place, isn't there? So I don't know.
How do you feel about him? Do you still have the hope?
Like I said, well, sending in more troops. I don't know. Is that great? I don't think it's that great.
I think there's the idea that if you're going to crack this particular nut in Afghanistan, you're going to need a sledgehammer, not some tiny.
True, and that's what I'm saying. He has to take the responsibility of that, and it does apply pressure within your job. But as a business, again, you can't expect miracles. You can say you could have your business plan all written down to go and get your finance in place, but then it doesn't mean it's going to go exactly to that plan.
Do you like him as much or the same or less than you did a year ago?
I think I am now just looking into who he really is rather than what was put forward to us. What was said, he's going to be brilliant.
So we're all looking for some kind of result from him.
Also, I think you have to consider what are the alternatives at every turn of this. And it's a global economic crisis. It's not as if, had John McCain been president, it would have been solved in America. You know?
Very true, very true. Lots of different angles on this. As I said, any kind of view on Barack Obama, welcome on this show. Let's hear some. Kirsty.
First we have Emma on line 1.
Emma, good morning.
Morning.
Do you like him more, less, the same as you did a year ago?
I think it's more or less the same, but I think there's been some fundamental mistakes that he's made.
Go on.
We've made mistakes by expecting too much, but I think he's made a mistake by leaving us with an information black hole. He actually energised a lot of people, and a lot of people were inspired. And it's those people that have been left with this hole that other politicians are able to fill. And beware that revolution is what I say to that.
Can you see any parallels there between New Labour coming into power in '97?
Not really, because I think the American system of government is so complex, and that's one thing that we don't really understand. And I think that a lot of the reason for the radio silence.
I just think, Emma, that Obama came on the promise of a wave of change, and Tony Blair came into power on the promise of a wave of change. And it's just that when it actually comes to it, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. It's things don't change.
Healthcare will be one of the fundamental things that could possibly catapult America back to the zenith of human progress and achievement. Healthcare would be a massive change, but it is taking time.
And I have to say, I'm not convinced it will get through. Emma, thank you. Let's have another.
On line 2, we have Bernadette.
Bernadette, good morning.
Good morning, Matthew.
So, same question. Do you like him as much, less, the same as you did a year ago?
I like him just as much.
OK. How do you think he's... what would be your view on what he's achieved in the last year?
I think it's too early to measure. I mean, we have to be patient. He inherited a terrible situation, which George Bush left, and we have to give him time. I'm sure even in one of his speeches he said it may even take him more than one term to complete what he needs to do.
Will you show the same sympathy to David Cameron if he was to take power in this country?
Well, I'm a Labour supporter, and I don't mind saying so. I don't want him in, and that's the bottom line.
OK. I was just thinking in terms of the country being in a terrible mess. Thank you, Bernadette. Let's
we have Grace next on line 3.
Grace, good morning.
Good morning, Matthew.
You like him the same, more or less?
I like him just as much, yes.
Good, OK.
I think when he was inaugurated, that's a year ago now, of course, people's expectations were so high.
But whose fault was that, Grace? Was that partly his fault for fanning them?
Well, I think what was his slogan? Yes, we can.
Yeah.
And everybody doesn't realise you can't just turn a country around. Many countries are all in a financial state at the minute. It's going to take time, but everybody expects so much from him, I think.
But ultimately, it was his slogan, yes, we can. So does he have to take responsibility for perhaps over-promising?
Well, no, he'd have to take responsibility if his slogan was yes, I can. The we is a genuinely important part of that. You actually need the will of the people to make those changes.
So you weren't thinking in terms of a Maggie Thatcher we?
No.
OK.
No.
OK. All right.
You love thinking about Maggie Thatcher's we, don't you? You're always going on about that.
This morning.
Oh, Dave Gorman. Okay. No, I just, as soon as you said it, I could just feel it coming. Oh, no.
You could feel Margaret Thatcher's...
No!
This is morning television, Matthew. Control yourself.
Under this 6 inches of makeup, I am scarlet red. So Lisa Matthews just walked into my life again. Now, calm. After the break. Some righteous anger. Why do grandparents deserve a legal right to see their grandkids as the government wants them to? I mean, what if you don't want them interfering? 0207 173 5555 is the number for your thoughts. I'd love to hear from parents, grandparents, even grown-up kids. True, around 1 million kids will lose contact with gran or grumps after their parents split up. But what, if anything, needs to be done to put that right? We'll find out what you think on the other side of the break.